and welcome to another episode of Headline Canada. Today we have a very special guest in our studio, Minister of Immigration, Refugee and Citizenship, Ahmed Hussen. Hello sir and welcome to BTC.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, we'll talk about the recent changes. It's just a year and a half in 2018 and your department has already introduced few changes. We'll talk about them one by one, but let's begin with that which is making headlines, that is Live-in Caregiver Program.
Yes, so as you know, in 2014 there was the introduction of two pilot programs within the caregiver program. The old live-in caregiver program is coming to an end, but all the people who had applied under that system are being processed. And when we took over government, the backlog in the live-in caregiver program was up to 7 years. We've brought that processing time down to 12 months. And I made a commitment to the live-in caregiver community in December, after hearing from them last year in May, that after hearing their concerns about families being kept apart, I made a commitment to them that we will eliminate the vast majority of the remaining cases in the live-in caregiver program by the end of 2018.
We understand 5-year pilot program was there and it's undergoing an assessment to determine improvements. But the recent announcement that those who have completed the 2 years employment by November 29, 2019, only they are eligible to apply for PR.
So the pilot program, let me clarify something. The two programs were meant to provide us with an ability to get feedback about how the program is working. In fact, right now we are conducting an assessment to see how those two pilot programs are working so that we can improve the caregiver program. We will ensure that there is a pathway for permanent residency for caregivers. The pilot programs, just like any other pilot, usually they begin and they finish. And pilots are meant to inform the government of how to move forward in a better fashion. But the pathway to permanent residency is not over. So we will ensure that caregivers continue to have a pathway to permanent residency.
But these are the people who take care of the seniors and children in our country. So you are focusing on them, but on the other hand, asylum seekers. We understand government is determined to secure borders, but asylum seekers, they are just keep coming in, and Canada has, I think, highest rate of accepting the asylum seekers in 27 years.
First of all, the numbers that have been quoted are, they picked certain years to look at the ability of Canada to accept asylum seekers. As you know, the Immigration Refugee Board is independent. They make their own decisions in terms of how the cases come in front of them. Many people are accepted, but also many people are rejected, and they, after exhausting appeals, they are asked to go back or are removed. One thing I'll say about asylum seekers is, first of all, last year we faced an extraordinary situation in the summer. For a brief period of time there was an increase, but subsequent to that there have been a decrease every single month from August. And so that's number one. Number two, in Canada we have two laws that we always have to maintain. One is respect for our Canadian laws against people illegally crossing our borders, but on the other hand we also have international obligations. When someone is physically in Canada and they claim asylum, they say, I'm a refugee, at the very least we are obligated by our international obligations to give that person a hearing, to allow them at least to make their case. Whether they end up making their case or not is up to the IRB, the Immigration Refugee Board, and some are found to be genuine refugees, others are not. But the option, the ability of our government to give those people access to a fair hearing is not an option. We have signed agreements and obligations to make sure that we do that, and that's part of who we are. And many countries do this. Having said that, we've taken a lot of proactive measures to communicate to diaspora migrant communities who may consider coming to Canada and claiming asylum. We've been engaging them over the last number of months, and we've been clearly communicating to them that you have to respect Canada's laws. You cannot cross our borders illegally. If you have an asylum claim to make it at the official border crossing. If you want to come to Canada to work, there's ways to apply for that. If you want to come to study, there's ways to apply for that. Don't cross our border. That's an illegal act. It's dangerous, and we don't accept it. And that message has been constantly being provided by myself and members of parliament who've gone down to the United States. And if you see, again, there's many factors. That's not the only factor. But if you see from August till now, the numbers have been decreasing dramatically, just like they increased for July and August.
Minister, we understand immigrants are important for this country, and Canada should credit immigrants for making this country one of the best educated countries in the world. And in 2017, immigrant targets was increased to 310,000. Down the line, it's going to increase more. Where do we stand now in completing these targets?
Oh, well, in terms of the year just started, but normally in any given year we're usually either we hit the target or we're very close to the target or we exceed it a little bit. We're usually in that range. So when you hear 300,000, it's usually a range of between 290,000 to 310,000.
Minister, we were talking about the immigrant targets, talking about parents and grandparents sponsorships. Every year people get a chance to apply in lottery intake, but there are many families who are eligible but they are not picked by the lottery system. Then they have to wait for another year, and maybe another year they're also not picked up. So down the line, are you planning to make some changes or some new announcements that during the year they get another chance to apply for parents?
So let's start from where we used to be. We used to be in a system that was not fair. That system treated people who had more money to pay an agent, they had more chances than the other person, right? If you lived closer to the processing center, you had more chance than someone who didn't live there. That system was unfair. So we said that we will change that system and make it more fair. But the second thing we did was promise that if we got into government, we will double the number for parents and grandparents from 5,000 spots to 10,000. We've done that. The question now becomes, what else can we do as part of the system for the people who keep applying and not getting in? They can do two things. One is they can get a super visa while they wait, while they try.
But super visas is sometimes expensive.
No, I understand, but it is an option for some people. Some people can use a super visa, and it's proven to help them. For the others who keep applying every year, I'm happy to re-examine the system to see how we can take that into consideration. In other words, if someone is applying for the first year and you've been applying for every year for the last 5 years, you should have a higher chance to bring your parent. I think that's more fair because you've been trying, right? And someone else is trying for the first time.
So is the department keeping a check on it that these are the...
So last year was the first year where we used this new system. And we've learned a lot. Again, we used to be in a much worse place. We have a better system now. The data and the experience that we've had from last year will help us continue to improve this system so that we take into consideration people who've been applying every time and not getting picked. How can we factor that into the selection process?
Last year, a few announcements were made to integrate newcomers to the labor market, and there were some pre-arrival services was also announced, some loans were also announced. Do you think people are really taking advantage of that service, or it needs to be advertised more?
It's not just pre-arrival services, it's actually a number of things. Pre-arrival services is one of them. We're talking about giving loans to people so that they can do the medical exams and all the professional body exams. We're talking about giving them paid internships so that they can get Canadian work experience. Because sometimes even after you get the license to become the doctor or lawyer or engineer in Canada, you still don't have Canadian work experience, and so employers don't want to hire you. So part of this money is going into that. It's going into mentorship. It's going into job matching. It's going into connecting people with those professional bodies. And yes, pre-arrival services so that people can start the licensing process before they even get to Canada. So that program is going well. It works through the community agencies that are providing the service. I've met a lot of professionals who have taken advantage of it. The City of Toronto has a similar program that they've been running for a number of years before we introduced ours. I think more needs to be done to publicize it. I try to mention it everywhere that I go.
Minister, will continue this conversation and we have a lot more to ask you, but after a short break. Welcome back after the break. Prime Minister is visiting India soon, and India is important for Canada because large number of immigrants are coming from India, especially students. Do you think Canada can benefit from this trip?
Yes, so first of all, India is an important country for Canada. There is so much potential in terms of trade, two-way trade, in terms of tourism, in terms of education, and the people-to-people ties, right? But the Prime Minister is going there to further our relationship, to make sure that India and Canada explore further ways to work together, to trade. We're a trading nation. Our prosperity is linked to trade, and the Indian economy is doing very well. India is projected in the next number of years to continue to grow economically and be one of the top 3 economies in the world. That's a market that Canada needs. That's a market that Canada is best positioned to benefit from because we have a large Canadian population who have Indian ancestry, and they connect the two countries. The international education piece is very important. We have so many Indian students who come to study in Canada and who end up staying. We want them to stay and become Canadian citizens. We think they make an amazing contribution. And the global skills strategy, which I introduced together with my colleague ministers, Navdeep Bains and Minister Paddy Haju and others, aims to attract global talent here faster. And I understand that India has been a great source country for that talent that is coming through the global skills strategy. And again, the Prime Minister is going there to further those kinds of collaborations. He's going with a big delegation of the Foreign Minister and 4 other ministers responsible for infrastructure, for economic development, for tourism, and for defense. And in all those sectors, you will see how this visit will further those interests. I look forward to going to India soon. After the Prime Minister's trip. We haven't finalized the dates, but for sure this year I'll be going to India. And I'm going there because, again, India is incredibly important to us in terms of being a source country for permanent immigrants, skilled immigrants who come to Canada to help us deal with labor market challenges and skills shortages. And while I'm there, I will hopefully take the opportunity to, for sure, visit the Golden Temple in Amritsar and visit Punjab, the Punjab region, Punjab state, and also visit a number of different cities in India, not just the capital.
We are looking forward to it. I'm coming back to that topic again. We have talked about asylum seekers and refugees, but there is a concern in a community that Canada is accepting asylum seekers and refugees, but what about Afghanistan Sikhs? They have requested so many times to accept those Sikhs from Afghanistan. Late Mr. Manmeet Bhullar, he was taking some few steps, and Mr. Bains, when he was in India last year, he met those Afghanistan Sikhs who are in India right now, and community want them that Canada should accept them here. Is there any update on that?
So first of all, the late Mr. Manmeet Bhullar, I knew him when he was a minister in Alberta. I met his family, and they're continuing his great legacy through the Bhullar Foundation. And through that foundation, they are trying to sponsor Sikh families from India, from Afghanistan, who are now in India.
In India, yes.
And my understanding is that they've put in an application. We're doing what we can to facilitate that. I can't comment on specific cases, of course, because each case is unique. People have to go through the system in terms of health, security, and all kinds of things. But our privately sponsored refugee program is is a good program in terms of outcomes, but the demand is not the same as the supply. There's way too many people who want to bring refugees and vulnerable IDPs than the system has space for. We do understand that, just as a starting point, our immigration system, our refugee policy doesn't discriminate based on language, ethnicity, or religion. I'm happy to report to you that that's a file that's important to us. I'm proud of the work that the Bula Foundation is doing. I know the people on it. I met one of them this morning through a different panel discussion. And rest assured, those individuals, their applications are looked at through the India network, and as soon as we have a tangible update to give to the community, I'll be happy to share that. So that sponsorship will go through the process and will be addressed within the framework of the privately sponsored refugees that we are picking from our India network. And when we have further updates in terms of when those people are expected to arrive, I'll be happy to share with you.
There is another concern in the community. There are many truck drivers who are traveling from Canada to US on daily basis. But in that case, they are not able to fulfill the number of days they need for the citizenship.
Yes.
So is there anything being done for them?
Well, we, first of all, under Bill C6, which is now law, as you know, we made that issue much easier to deal with. It used to be that you needed 4 years out of 6 to become a citizen. We've shortened that, well, brought it back to how it used to be, 3 years out of 5. But in addition to that, we made it easier for people to collect the physical number of requirements, the number of days needed to become a citizen. It used to be that you needed X number of days, about 183 days consecutive. That requirement is no longer the case. You can leave and come back. So we've made it much more flexible. But at the end of the day, our law is also that you have to live in Canada for a period of time before you become a citizen. Otherwise, what's your attachment to this country? So we have to balance that, but I think we've balanced it in such a way that we've become very facilitative now with the changes with Bill C6, which is now law. And I'm hoping that those changes will help those truck drivers and other workers who have to leave the country frequently and come back. Because now they can accumulate those days as opposed to having them consecutive, right?
As a minister, what are your priorities next? What is your vision regarding the immigration?
So the number one priority we have on immigration is client service. Putting the client at the center of everything that we do. So, and you've seen, if you look at our track record for 2016 and 2017, you will see the improvements we've made to the system. Citizenship used to take 24 months to get, it's now 12 months.
Yes.
Spousal is another one. It used to take 26 months or more to finalize spousal applications. It now takes 12 months or less. We've made changes to Bill C6 to enable people to become citizens faster and easier. Permanent resident card renewals, we've shortened the time that people used to wait 8 to 10 months, it's now 52 days. So that's the track record. Living caregivers, we've reduced the processing time from up to 7 years to 12 months. So a lot has been done. We need to continue that track record of client service, and by eliminating backlogs, reducing processing times, but also making the process easier to use and making the experience more pleasant, because you know, we've gotten feedback that the forms need to be simplified, the website needs to be simplified, and so on. So, and the visa processing, you know, we always trying to innovate there, and I visited China. India is next. I've visited our other missions, visa offices in London and other offices, and I've seen how Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada is continuing to innovate to make sure that cases that, for example, for visitors' visas, cases that are obvious, that have a good travel history and a good financial information, that they're processed faster, that the process works so much easier for them. That, for example, if you have had a visa in the past and you went back, you visited Canada and you went back, that we take that into consideration when you apply for another visa. So I think, you know, if I was to summarize my priorities to one thing, it would be client service, better client service. We've already delivered on that. We need to do more. We now have a section within Immigration, Refugee, Citizenship Canada called client service. So it's a big priority for us, and we will continue to push. And I can tell you, our visa processing, despite the growth in the applications, we're still holding steady, and we're processing people in good time. And last year, a lot of the MPs and people in the community were coming to me and saying, you know, we don't have a lot of complaints this year. Our relatives who we invited for weddings, other people who are coming for funerals and other things, they were getting, visas quickly and smoothly, so people were very happy.
Well, Minister, on that note, thank you so much. We are looking forward to it, and we hope to interview again before the India trip. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.